Well, it's a real treat to have Vicky Trop from Eventful Project with us. Vicky, how are you going?
Good, thank you, Tim. How are you today?
Well, good. Look, I suppose we're all in this together. That's a global thing, isn't it? Like everyone's trying to balance work from home, the children, all the other commitments. It's an interesting challenge. How's it been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like everyone else, I guess there's two different areas of where we're at the moment. And the first section really is just very reactive. So today with government advice, policies, and also information so that we can keep our clients current and up to date is really important during this time. Obviously, we want to see everyone's events happen, but we need to also be really respectful of our clients' decisions and also be mindful that our responsibility is to the client first and foremost. But as a PCO, which is a professional conference organizer, we also have to look after our supply chain and our key stakeholders. So we obviously have a big job to do, keeping everyone happy and obviously trying to financially mitigate the loss to our clients and also to our suppliers. So we're just trying to help everyone minimise the impact at this point. Working from home is a very reactive situation, as you mentioned before, Tim. So like you, we're just sitting at home. I'm in the home office at the moment, but often like you, I'm in the car doing a few phone calls and shooting off from place to place, running errands and just also sometimes just heading out to appointments. So when it comes to future thinking, Tim, this is the exciting part. It's not often that we get to really work on the business rather than in the business. So it's exciting that we get to use this time to really to look at our clients and how we can look at doing our client and supply retention strategies. So obviously without any events at the moment, we're not speaking to our clients as often and they're not accessible. Some of them have been stood down temporarily, some of them have actually been made redundant and others are on leave. So once we get to the point where we've cancelled or rescheduled their events, our communication then sort of starts to slow down. So using this opportunity to look at different ways that we can keep the communication and the retention of not just our clients, but also our suppliers, because they're equally as important to an event manager. When we look at the business itself, is a really good opportunity right now to do a 360 audit and have a look at what we do really well, where our strengths are, and also where our areas for improvement are possibly going to be. And so having a look at these two areas and looking at strategies and implementation so that we can amplify both strengths and shortfalls. So that's the sort of where we're finding ourselves at the moment, sitting in between two camps, the reactive and also the future thinking.
It's an interesting place to be. Look, a lot of my work since I left Channel 9 has been event work as well. So, you know, when you can only have two people in a room, that means a lot of events don't take place.
Exactly.
You've also got to juggle the money coming in and out, don't you? As a business owner, it's challenging. You want to get everything right. You want to get every duck in line, but you've also got to be thinking about your own financial position.
Absolutely. And as a PCO, a professional conference organizer, we find ourselves managing a lot of money for our clients and their events. And often we hold a lot of the ticket income and redistribute it to suppliers, and we hand over the profit back to the customer. We have to pay the GST and the income tax. So there's a lot of different areas when it comes to the money. When situations like COVID arise, we have a need to really look at the finances, because those people who have purchased tickets, they can no longer attend an event that they've paid for. So we now need to refund those funds back to ticket holders, and that's a legal obligation. So then we need to work with our clients as far as, okay, how much money do we actually have and how do we refund? Because some of that income that we've held, we've used to pay suppliers, so that's not readily available, also operationally and financially and legally as well. I actually, Tim, expect we're going to see a lot of movement around force majeure clauses and supply agreements. I know that through this process, we currently have our legal counsel just going through our supply agreements, not just to protect our business, but also to protect clients as well. Because the one thing I have found going through contracts at this point is they're not specific to pandemics. So there's a lot of loopholes, and where we find ourselves at the moment is no one is really obligated to refund anything because it's all out of our control. The government has given specific instructions and restrictions. So now what's happening is the contracts are so ambiguous that suppliers are left to do ethical decisions, and that's where we sort of say, okay, let's start refunding deposits and let's do this out of goodwill. There's no actual legal standpoint because a pandemic hasn't been accounted
it's completely.
for.
I mean, sorry to interrupt, but the word unprecedented has never been used so much, or uncharted waters. But one thing that you touched on there was the word goodwill, and when we saw some of those scenes out of supermarkets with toilet paper earlier on, there wasn't a lot of that goodwill. But as time has gone on, it's been an interesting case study, hasn't it, in human behaviour, the way that we've seen a lot of goodwill, and in business. You know, there are some people taking advantages of it. I suppose you're always going to see that. But primarily, there's been people showing patience and kindness, certain parts of the business character that we don't see all that often.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right, Tim. And I guess the first time I saw this was when I was speaking to a lot of the venues that we had clients contracted to. And a lot of them were saying this is unprecedented, but out of goodwill, we're going to reschedule without any penalty, or we will give back clients' deposits. And then moving forward from that, just seeing all these random acts of kindness is fantastic. And to give you an example, here in Adelaide, one of our restaurants has an employee who's on a visa, so they're not currently covered in any of the government support packages. So they've opened up their kitchen to this person on a Friday evening, and all the restaurant takings that night go to him and his family. So he's able to make some income supplying takeaway food out of a prominent restaurant here in Adelaide. You just pre-order, you pick it up, and they've guaranteed that 100% of income will go to that family. So that's a really beautiful thing that I saw just yesterday, actually, that I thought that's a really nice thing to do. And hopefully we start to see a lot of other people in our community supporting other international students or people who have been on visas, or even just simply, Tim, people who haven't been able to receive any benefit from the government because they don't really qualify for JobKeeper or Job Seeker grants.
Yeah, exactly. And look, you've travelled all around the world, worked all around the world in this space. Sometimes when things go quiet, it's your greatest test, and your behaviour can dictate how you're going to go when things get good again as well. You know, like the way that you treat people now can really reflect. Oh, I'm speaking purely business now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that, Tim, because only yesterday I was thinking to myself that this whole situation just proves how important relationships are, because without the relationships you have with your clients, your suppliers, and just people in general, your customers can move around anywhere. So once COVID sort of passes and we restore back to normal, your customers have free will and choice to go anywhere and buy anything from anyone. So really, at the end of the day, the relationships you have will ensure that those customers come back. And that's not just the event industry, that's all industries. If there's some sort of connection, loyalty there, brand advocacy, which is all built through relationships, then that will show that a business will stand through the test of time. So I really believe that those organisations and those people that don't value consumer loyalty or consumer relationships, or find that it's a waste of time, are probably going to find now that their sales or their business will be suffering. And I guess those businesses that are only new, it's also really challenging because you haven't had the opportunity to build that. My business is only 6 years old this year, so we're fortunate enough to have built relationships, but we're not completely established like a 20 or a 30-year business. So to me, COVID has just reinforced the importance of, irrespective of how busy you are, picking up the phone, going out and having coffees with people is super important, and we need to remember to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And you sort of got to be careful about where you're having the coffee as well. You almost got to zoom up the coffee, don't you? And so have virtual coffees or virtual glasses of wine. But which, of course, where you live, you don't have to travel too far to get a good bottle. Let's talk about your business and some of the organisations, because you've been involved with some of the big companies of the world across a large platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very fortunate in my career to work with some big brands, not just here in Australia, but internationally as well. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is that we all are different, but we all essentially conduct business in a similar way. And the most interesting thing is now, I think we're finding that a lot of businesses are going into hibernation and are conducting forward thinking. So I think that's where we're all sort of sitting similar in the sense that, yes, this has happened. Let's have a look at how we can mitigate and manage our risk. And I think with the crisis management, I think we're sort of there now. In Australia, we've had all our big announcements. We've had all our big restrictions put into place. We're now getting really comfortable with life as we know it. And now we're starting to adapt. And then the next phase will be the evolution phase. So I think we'll see on a personal and professional level, a lot of people starting to move into that, from adaptation into evolution, and start to think about, okay, where are we going moving forward and how do we do that? And I guess that's similar across all businesses and globally. And that's what we're all doing. And I think it's really important, Tim, to remember we're all here in the same place, and it's no one's fault. This has just happened. We all simply need to take this situation and run with it the best we can. And I feel that during this time, we're going to see a lot of businesses close down, which is really unfortunate. And we're going to see a lot of businesses hibernate. And we're going to see some businesses really flourish in this time. And this is their moment to shine. And at the end of the day, I think it's really important that we're there to support each other, business to business and employee to employee, and look at how we can really fine-tune our marketing partnerships. And that's what I'm currently doing at the moment, is looking at our suppliers and seeing what we can do together to help our clients.
Yeah,
and that's what it really is at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's forget about COVID for a moment and just talk about when your business is ticking along. I tend to come in late in the day and get we talk with who I'm working with, and then you're on stage, you might interview someone or conduct an hour's keynote, whatever that role is as an MC. But from your perspective, as someone who has to do the whole picture, there's so many elements that go into it. Give us a little bit, for those watching today, give us a little bit of an indication of what it takes to be in your role.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few parts of what we do as an event manager, or specific to what I do, a PCO, a professional conference organizer. And those two parts are pre-event, on-site, and then post-event. So each are equally important and require a lot of administration. And I honestly believe the time and the effort we put in the pre-planning of our events, which is in the lead up, all the all the emails, the strategy towards an event, so the event's purpose and how we're going to market it and what speakers we're going to have and what their key messaging is, and all the details about the events and how to get delegates in and how we get them out and where we're moving them and what's the ticket cost
and how to keep them interested, that's a big thing.
And that's all the fun bit, and we do all of that in the pre-planning. And then we get on site, and this is the best bit, because we get to see everything that we've planned and everything we've put in place verbally and on a paper comes to life on site. And it's really, really, really exciting. And the best bit for me is when I sit back at some point during the event, and I take a look around at everything that's happening, and I think we did this. We did this collectively, because it's never going to happen with one person. But I just love that moment when I'm watching everyone so absorbed in the event and just completely enthralled in what's going on. And more importantly, when they're talking to other people and you can hear what they've taken away from the event, and when you can hear the implementing call to actions that we've put in place, that's amazing. And then when we leave the event and we come back to the office, this is also equally as exciting, is the post-event stuff. So we get to wrap it up, but also we get to look at why our event was a success, and did we make budget? Why did we make budget? Why were we successful? And we get to really analyze the strengths and the weaknesses of our event and put that all together into a report for our clients, and then debrief and then roll into the next event. So I guess what does a day look like for me? It depends what we're doing. But I think if you're a student watching this, then we have 3 elements, and administration is super important, but also the on-site logistics and operations is just as fun, and also is part of what we do.
Yes, and the thing is, they say feedback is the breakfast of champions. Getting feedback from those you are working with, the good stuff's great, but it's also good to get the constructive feedback, isn't it? Because those little elements can be so helpful when next you're putting something similar together.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I often say the best mistakes are great learnings. So if we don't make mistakes and if we don't receive constructive criticism, it's really hard to improve, because if we just keep hearing, yes, everything is great, well, that's brilliant. We like that we're ticking all the boxes, but we need more specifics so that we can make sure that we're ticking boxes for everyone. And everyone perceives value and everyone perceives success in a different way. And that's why it's really important during the event process that we've got continual evaluation happening. And that's we're on site when we're asking people what they're thinking, and also post-event when we send out strategic evaluation forms, we're trying to seek that feedback so that we can implement improvements into the next event. And it could be as simple as just asking, what would you like to see at the next event? And is making these evaluation forms as simple and as easy to complete as possible. Yeah, absolutely. Just jump in, get involved. The best place to start is volunteering, and I can't express that enough, especially at the moment where we're seeing there's a bit of a dip in the market. Obviously, there's not a lot of activity. Getting to know who the players are. So if you get known in the industry, start connecting with people on LinkedIn, start to know who the event companies and the professional conference organisers and the venues are, and really start getting known, and maybe start to connect with them to see if, especially now, if you can have a virtual meeting to learn more about what they do, perhaps even make yourself known that you want to get experience, so that post-COVID, when things are coming back up and running, that you're forefront in mind in experience. And I think we're going to see a lot of organisations that have had a financial hit. So anyone who's looking to do some volunteer work or placement will be really well positioned to come into organisations to see how they're obviously recovering and working, but also jumping into events. And that's a great platform to start. Also, your local council will have some volunteer and recruitment programs for events. So it's really depending on what city you live in, just jump onto the city council and see what their volunteer program is. And I think often you just make an application. Another good place to start is with venues. I started my career working in restaurants and hotels, and I learned everything that I know from an operational perspective. And then that allowed me to move into more of a management and strategic position where I can now advise clients confidently, because I've walked the walk. So I know how venues work. I know how service works. I know the barriers inside venues. So then now when I'm sitting on the other side of the fence, I can put strategies in place and I can advise clients confidently, because I've done the grunt work first. So venues are another really good place to start, along with charities. Charities are always looking for support. So, go along and ask your favourite charity or a charity that you hold close to your heart if they need support with any fundraising events or hands-on with on site with events, and even administratively doing any work. And then the next element too, if you can't afford to go to a concert, why not volunteer to help out at a concert and experience the concert and work at the same time? So there's great variety of opportunities for you to get started in the industry. Definitely, you don't have to wait for a job to be advertised in order to get your foot in the door.
Finally, Vicky, and look, you're saying things that I've said to a lot of young people as well who want to get started in the media, and my advice to them is, well, go to the country, try and get that whole body of experience. So when you're in a position where you might have a big audience or a big stage or plenty of pressure, that you've been here before, so you can achieve that. Also, just wrapping it up, you've got to know at times like now that they will pass, just like challenging times in a career, that you've got to stay confident, stay positive, stay upbeat, and we'll hit a tree, but eventually we'll come out the other side of the forest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to remember that this is definitely going to pass. And as a events, hospitality, tourism industry sector, we will move forward. Yes, the industries will be redefined. Yes, consumer behaviour will certainly be different. Yes, we need to wait for travel restrictions to be lifted. Yes, we need to wait for the economy to restabilise. But once all that's happened, we will definitely move forward. And I think it's really important to remember, Tim, at this point, because a lot of businesses are either hibernating or they've literally ground to a halt, that the recovery process will be slow. We won't be back up and running straight away, but there will be incremental changes and incremental movements forward. Businesses will be able to apply. And I think as an industry, we need to remember that. As someone who wants to enter the industry, this is a prime time for you. Never before have we been in a situation where businesses have had to go from 100% operational and functioning and profitable to a zero. And I've seen some of my suppliers that are massive national organisations go from turning over millions of dollars every quarter to literally zero. But they will recover. And now will be really important for you, if you're looking to get into the industry, to ask for placement, to ask to volunteer. This is amazing for you to be able to see how a business recovers, also to learn about how a business operates. Is this a business that you actually want to work for? Doing a volunteer placement or doing an industry placement is a perfect opportunity to suss out whether you like the organisation, whether you like the job and the role, and then you can make a decision whether you'd like to take employment if offered or apply for a position. So I think it's really important to look at this time as a gift. Yes, it's a gift to sort of take some time out and re-look at where you're going and what you're doing. But as someone who wants to enter the industry, or someone who maybe is in the start of their career within industry, this is a perfect time to be strategic and start winding up, get connected, start looking at businesses that you would like to work for, or start connecting now, plant the seed basis for now. But guess what? Once these businesses are operational and ready, you're there, you're working, they've tried and tested you. So guess who will be offered a position when they're ready to take full-time staff? So I think it's really important as a student, as someone who's just entered the industry, don't be disheartened right now. This is a perfect opportunity for you. I couldn't imagine the conditions to be any better for anyone starting in our sectors right now.
Exactly. And as you say, you need to be agile, you need to be nimble. Look, today I've had to do this from the car because as we self-isolate with 3 young children, I couldn't take the risk of trying to find a safe environment in the house. But at least here we've got a studio-like sound. And look, Vicky Trop said he's from Eventful Management. Look, it's been great to talk to you, and all the very best going forward. And I'm sure that those watching today have got a bit of insight into how inspiration meets perspiration, and that's where success lies.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's been so good speaking to you, and yeah, just exciting for what comes ahead, actually. So thank you so much for your time.